The look on their faces when I pulled up in my brand new Jaguar was worth every sleepless night I'd spent proving them wrong. Their mouths hung open like they'd seen a ghost, and for the first time in my life, I felt something I never thought I'd feel around my family: power. My father, the man who had spent years telling me I'd never amount to anything, was speechless. This was the same man who once looked me dead in the eye and said, "You were never the bright one. You're just useless." Those words had carved themselves into my soul like a permanent scar, but that day, I realized scars can become armor. I grew up in a family where success wasn't a dream, it was a demand. My brother was the golden child, praised for every accomplishment, showered with attention. I, on the other hand, was the quiet one, the girl who supposedly didn't have the brains or grit to make something of herself. No matter what I did, it wasn't enough. If I brought home good grades, they were average. If I expressed dreams, they were unrealistic. By the time I was 16, I had stopped trying to impress them, but their words followed me everywhere. I would lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling, replaying the sound of my father's voice saying, "You're just not smart enough." Those words stung like a fresh wound every single time. When I graduated high school, there was no celebration for me. My brother had received a big party when he graduated, complete with balloons, a custom cake, and speeches about how proud everyone was. Me, I got a half-hearted pat on the back. My father barely even looked at me, muttering, "College isn't for everyone." It was clear he thought I wasn't cut out for it. I wanted to cry that night, but something inside me hardened. I decided that if no one was going to believe in me, I would become the kind of person they'd be forced to believe in. I was done begging for their validation. The first few years were brutal. I moved out with almost nothing, no financial support, no safety net, just me and a part-time job at a diner. I worked long shifts, sometimes coming home smelling like grease and coffee, my hands aching from carrying heavy trays. But every tip I made went into my savings. During the day, I enrolled in night classes for business and marketing, juggling work and school while barely scraping by. My apartment was tiny and barely livable, but every night I reminded myself, this is temporary. I was building something, even if no one else could see it yet. While my family looked down on me, I started networking. I spent hours on my laptop, teaching myself everything I could about entrepreneurship. I read books, took online courses, attended free seminars, anything to give me an edge. When I finally had enough saved, I launched my first startup, a small online store. It wasn't glamorous, and it definitely wasn't profitable at first. I remember sitting at my kitchen table, staring at my first sale notification, tears streaming down my face. It wasn't about the money. It was proof that I could do this. But success doesn't come without failure. There were months when I didn't know how I'd pay rent. I maxed out credit cards, worked side hustles, and sacrificed sleep. I went through heartbreak, rejection, and moments of crushing self-doubt. But every time I felt like quitting, I thought of my father's voice telling me I was useless. That voice fueled me more than any motivational speech ever could. It burned like fire in my chest, pushing me to keep going. Years passed, and that little startup grew. I pivoted, expanded, and eventually founded a tech company focused on solutions no one else was paying attention to. I poured my heart and soul into it, working 16-hour days, taking risks others thought were insane. People doubted me, just like my family did, but I learned to love being underestimated. It made victory so much sweeter. Investors started noticing me, partnerships started forming, and before I knew it, my company wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. I became the youngest female CEO in the nation, and my name started appearing in magazines and on business panels. I was finally living the life I'd once only dreamed of. Then came the family reunion. I hadn't seen them in years. They never reached out, never supported me, and I'd long stopped expecting them to. But this time, I was going to show up, not as the quiet, underestimated girl they used to mock, but as the woman who had built an empire from scratch. I bought a Jaguar, the kind of car that made people turn their heads. On the day of the gathering, I pulled into their driveway, the engine purring like a satisfied cat. I stepped out wearing a tailored suit and heels that clicked sharply against the pavement. Every head turned, conversations stopped, and there I was, standing tall with a confident smile, my hair perfectly styled, and my name already making headlines. My father was the first to approach me. He blinked like he couldn't believe what he was seeing. Is that your car?" he asked, his voice unsteady. I smiled politely. "Yes, bought it last week." He glanced at the Jaguar, then back at me, his mouth slightly open. The man who had once dismissed me as useless didn't have a single word of criticism left in him. The rest of my family swarmed me, asking questions, pretending to be proud, but I could see the envy in their eyes. My brother, the golden child, stood silently in the corner, his expression tight. He'd been the star for so long, but now the spotlight was on me, and he hated it. For years, they had made me feel invisible. That night, they couldn't look away. We all sat down for dinner, and my father finally said, I read about you in the papers. His voice trembled with something I'd never heard before, respect. You've done well. I gave him a polite nod, hiding the satisfaction bubbling up inside me. I didn't need his approval anymore. I'd built a life far beyond anything he could have imagined for me, and that was enough. The best part wasn't their stunned silence or their forced smiles. It was the calm that settled over me. For years, I'd carried their words like chains, dragging them with me through every struggle. But now, sitting at that table, I realized those chains were gone. I was free. I didn't need revenge in the form of anger or cruelty. My success was revenge enough. As I left that night, walking back to my Jaguar, I could feel their eyes on me. I slid into the driver's seat, started the engine, and smiled. The girl they called useless had become the woman they could never stop talking about. If this story made you feel something, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs inspiration, and tell us in the comments about the sweetest revenge you've ever seen. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this, because sometimes the best revenge is success.